Yeah. Now, I said we had lots of good news today, all sorts of good news happening. Nigel Farage has decided he will run in the July 4th election, which is fantastic news. Already there's momentum building there. He's already, his party is called Reform, and there's people are signing up to it. There's a lot of movement there. We've seen a lot of movement with Trump's rallies and things happening in America, a lot of movement there as well. I was delighted to hear that Peter Dutton has come out and wants to make this the climate change election, our election later this year or next year. This is being portrayed as Peter Dutton saying that he would pull out of the Paris Agreement. Yes, do that. Absolutely. Make that your #1 election commitment, Peter Dutton, and you will romp into the lodge. Guaranteed. The people of Australia want solid anti-climate change action. They're fed up with all this other rubbish. That's my opinion.
What the people of Australia want is cheap, reliable energy. Whenever you give them the option between cheaper prices and emission cuts, they always opt for cheaper prices, even if they're going to tell a pollster, I really care about emissions. But this is something that has perplexed the likes of Paul Barry and everyone else on the left. They just can't understand. Monique Ryan is saying this is an extreme position.
Extreme.
Extreme. Mad.
It's only the position the rest of the world is taking. That's how extreme it is.
They're all signed up to Paris. It doesn't matter what they're actually doing. They've signed up to Paris. At the end of the day, we want our Prime Minister to prioritise the interest of Australians.
100%.
And the interest of Australians are best served by having cheap, reliable energy, whether that's coal, gas, nuclear. We certainly know it's not renewables.
And it's certainly not the Snowy Hydro 2.0 project. That's for one thing. Thank you, Malcolm, for that. But, you know, this is the point. We are moving through this renewables transition that Labor is foisting on us from a position... Foisting on us from being a country where, you know, energy is cheap, reliable, and always there, to one where as they introduce smart meter technology, even the ABC admitted this week, that this is now going to create this situation where, you know, you have to decide what time you're turning on appliances, the dishwasher, the washing machine, the clothes dryer, things like this, because otherwise you're going to get charged at this peak rate and it's going to affect your bill for the entire quarter.
This is an outrage.
This is a huge outrage, and as people wake up to this, they're going to realize, what have we done to ourselves here? And I reckon that this point here, I think Peter Dutton has hit the sweet spot here. You say 2030, that's off the table, and then 2050, well, by then, you could have a few nuke plants, you could have this, you could have that, and, you know, the thing is, too, this scare campaign, can we talk for a minute
about
let's do
the
scare
Labour's scare campaign?
Every single day, Chris Bowen is out there tweeting about, you know, risky reactors. He talks about risky reactors. Where are you going to have, you know, a reactor? Is it going to be next to you? Is it going to be next to you? I'll tell you something. I have been out in communities in rural New South Wales. I spoke to a couple outside of Goulburn. Their whole property and those of 60 landholders around them is going to be ruined by this 700,000 solar panels that they want to put across hundreds of acres of prime agricultural land. They're terrified about not just visual amenity, but fire risk, because fire appliances can't go near them during a bushfire. You know, what happens if there's a hailstorm? They crack, like that huge thing that happened, I think, in India the other week. There are so many risks, and the footprint of all of these things is so huge. I think you talk to a lot of people, they'd say, I'll take a risky reactor, like the one that's in Lucas Heights outside of Sydney, any day of the week.
Well, they keep pretending that the coalition is running scared about where these reactors are going to be, where these nuclear plants. They've told you where they're going to be, because they need to be near the existing infrastructure. So they need to be near the existing coal plants. So that's where they are, where you've got a coal plant that is going to be decommissioned. That's where it's likely to be, because you need to be near the poles and wires.
You need to be near the poles and wires and these things, because remember, just the physics of a nuclear reactor is the same as a coal plant. You're simply boiling water, and so if you're near the power lines and you're near a source of water, all of those places where you can have a really good coal-fired plant, you can put a reactor there. And to tell you what else, all of the jobs, many of the jobs that come from maintaining the turbines and all of that, they translate from one to the other. So there's an employment piece, there's an economic piece, there's a cheap energy piece here. They're on a winner.
The other thing we haven't met, which you touched on, is the footprint. And the point about energy, we're going to need vast amounts of energy going into the future. AI, things like this require more and more and more energy. Now, the only way you get energy is out of the footprint, the amount of land you take up to get that energy. Renewables take out far more land than any other form of generating energy. Nuclear takes out the least amount of land. That's the simple equation that Bowen and Albo refuse to acknowledge. They will lose. Let me guarantee you this, that the majority of people in Australia who want nuclear, cheap energy, or even back to coal, is at least the 60-40 majority that won the voice. At least. I would say it's probably more like 70-30 or even 80-20. People want cheap, reliable energy and they want a prosperous economy, and these clowns in Labor are denying us that. They will go into this election and they will lose big time. Stick to your guns, libs. Fight hard. Get out of Paris. Paris is simply a way to enrich the Chinese military. That's basically what the Paris Agreement does. Cutting to the chase. So go for it, Peter Dutton. Well done. We need more of that.